Once upon a time in the magical land of Equestria. War. War never changes. It was once said that the fate of the world hinged on friendship. It was so much a fact of life that when it was cast aside wholesale, the entirety of ponykind was punished for it. In just 2 short hours, most of the planet was reduced to cinders. Some had the good fortune to survive the apocalypse by taking shelter in the great underground shelters called stables. The less fortunate attempted other, more desperate measures. A rushed mass migration took place as ponies set sail from the mainland, sailing on anything that could float, hoping to reach the Somerset Isles. All of them gambling that the resort isles would be spared the Holocaust. What waited for them was toxic fire and dark magic raining from the sky. The surviving ships disappeared behind the vast wall of wild weather, cutting Somerset Isles from the rest of the world. The survivors would then seek out an existence in the oceanic wasteland. Followed Equestria, Dark Shores. I guess this is where you get the scrolling text or some narrator telling the audience the who, what, when, where, and the why of the story. If the director is good, they can tell the exposition through the story without boring the viewer. Really good directors can nab the audience's attention with just one line. Well, here goes nothing. My name is Riptide, and I'm a sea pony. Heh, figured that'd get your attention. Yes, sea ponies do exist. We didn't originally, at least not in the traditional sense. We were fictional, something you'd see in a picture book or a children's movie. We are a product of the apocalypse. The first of us, Lord Poseidon, was born roughly 10 years after the end of the world. He rose and brought the rest of the sea ponies into existence with him and ruled over Oceania. 50 years later, he shed his mortal shell to govern the seas of the world as Celestia and Luna govern the sun and moon. He left a void of power that, to this day, left the sea ponies scattered and alone. Or that's how the myth goes. He's more of a saint than a god, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a cult of him somewhere. You're probably curious about sea ponies in general. We're a tribal society, spaced out in isolated parts of Oceania. There are 3 types of us, just like normal ponies. You have your run-of-the-mill sea pony with 2 front legs, a mane, and a back end like a dolphin's tail. Then you have the one with a unicorn's horn, like me. And finally, you have the ones that have fins instead of front legs. We're amphibious. Land doesn't bother us that much. It barely even slows us down, though we prefer to be in the water. Just the freedom of movement under the waves. It's something you just can't find on land. I suppose a Pegasus might find the air to be the same, but I digress. My particular tribe, the Reef Dwellers, is centered on a very small island with 3 buildings on it: the dockhouse, the tower, and the theater. From what we could find out about the island, it was one of those hidden gem vacation spots that you'd only find off the beaten path. We use the dockhouse as a clinic and for housing for our land-based cousins. The tower is the first and foremost lookout tower. Then there's the workshop and armory at the base of the tower. Nothing military, just a collection of spears, war clothes made from coral, a few squirt guns, and a rifle we could never get working. Then we have our crown jewel, in my eyes at least, the theater. Half stage, half silver screen. This is where we have important meetings, ceremony, open mic night, and my personal favorite, the nightly film showing. The other tribes that I know of are the bottom feeders and the spotted sharks. We don't see them very often. In our little neck of the woods, I think that's the term, pretty out of the way for their hunting grounds. If we do meet them, they're mostly admissible. Some of them have even traded with us for medicine and a private showing. However, they have been known to pick a fight with our 4-legged family members. Other than them, we don't get outsiders. In fact, my parents were the last land ponies to end up here. Oh yeah, Mom and Dad were unicorns. It's very possible for land ponies to have sea pony foals. Dad's the one who got me hooked on the silver screen, ever since he fixed the projector and opened up the archives. They passed away when I was still young, so Shaman Hollowbones adopted me and made me her apprentice. Her guidance and those old movies raised me into the stallion I am today. Don't worry, there was a whole section of educational films in there. Anyways, the previews have been dragging on a bit too long. Unless I plan on making this a trilogy, I should probably get to the opening scene. Please silence all pit buttons and radios, stay courteous and avoid talking during the film. Concessions can be purchased in the lobby, and emergency exits are at the front of the theater. Enjoy the show.
The night is hot as hell. It's a lousy room in a lousy hotel in a lousy city. I'm staring at a goddess. She tells me what she wants me. I'm not gonna waste another second wondering how I got so lucky. She smells like a princess ought to smell. The perfect mare. The goddess. Goldie. She says her name is Goldie. 3 hours later, I wake up with my head feeling 3 sizes too big, and the cold thing happens to my stomach, and I realize Goldie's dead. Not a mark on her. You'd have to check her pulse and notice those beautiful wings of her weren't moving the way they would if she was breathing. She was murdered, and I was right here when it happened, laying next to her, stone drunk just like she was. Damn it, Goldie. Who were you and who wanted you dead? Who were you other than an angel of mercy giving a two-time loser like me the night of his life? It sure hell wasn't my looks. So why the Seasley Saloon? Why the kindness, Goldie?
Sirens.
The cops. They're telling me too much. Showing up before anyone but me and the killer knows there's been a murder. Some pony paid good money for this frame. No reason to play it quiet. No reason to play it any way but my way. Whoever killed you is gonna pay, Goldie. Bang, bang, bang.
Open up, police. I'll be right.
Oh, come on! I yelled as somebody pulled the movie from the player. The shutters opened. The cloudy light from outside was blinding compared to the near pitch of the empty theater. I hissed as I hid myself from the sudden brightness. My braided salt and pepper mane reflected in my sea green coat, which in turn reflected more light into my eyes. My eyes were still busy adjusting to the light. Now how did I know you'd be in here? A soft, weathered voice came from the entrance of the theater. It was Hollowbones. She was an old unicorn Zoni, half zebra, striped blue and gray, red mane, and a splint for a cutie mark. To the untrained eye, she looked emaciated, but that's just how she was built.
You've been cooped up in here for near 2 days. It's time to go outside and get your tail wet, she ordered. Friggin' mandatory exercise horse apples. I just wanted to pick out the next movie from the X-ray section everyone else was too embarrassed to touch. But no. I was just getting to the good part too, I complained. I looked at the projector, still spinning as if the film wasn't rudely pulled off not a moment ago. That could have damaged the film. I could almost feel tears swelling up. The movie will be here when you get back, Riptide. She wrapped her front leg around my neck, dragging me out of the screening room. I dug my hooves into the wood paneling. I started to protest, but she shoved a hoof in my mouth. No buts. Besides, we need ingredients, and I can't swim. And the cat is out of the bag. Figure she needed something and wasn't really concerned about my physical fitness. Fine, I said, defeated. Hollowbones and I would have these exchanges all the time. It usually ended with me giving in and going along with whatever she had in mind. She's old, and the closest thing to a mother I had. What do you need me to get? I need an extract of flufferfish, some xanderroot, and sea cucumber. Flufferfish, xanderroot, sea cucumber. I thought for a moment as we walked past the main theater and into the lobby. Soul nectar? Soul nectar was a drug. Medical books would classify it as a S-class hallucinogen. The stuff was tough, but it did its job. We used it for vision quests. Colts and fillies get of a certain age and not have their cutie mark would get pumped full of the stuff. 4 out of 5 times you got your cutie mark before you sobered up. 1 out of 5 times, it'd kill you. Hence the of a certain age clause. Glad to see you remember some of the things I taught you, she smiled thinly. Who's it for? I asked. Sea breeze. We went outside. The salty, cool breeze hit me like a cozy blanket. The sky was cloudy. It always was. You could see little pillars of light poking through the holes. The palm trees swayed ever so slightly in the wind. A couple fillies were playing with a ball. She really that old now? I mused. If your eyes weren't so glued to the silver screen, you'd know that. If my eyes weren't so glued to the silver screen, I would have never found out how to treat a sucking chest wound, I snapped back, giving Hollowbones a gentle nudge. I was referring to an advanced first aid film I found in the romance section a month ago. Fine, I'll let you have that. Stargazer would be dead without you. Now, get you hence. I have to make Seabreeze ready, and the sun is falling. She gave me a swift kick in the hindquarters as she went off towards the dockhouse. I dragged myself to the tower. If I was going out into the sea, I was going to need my effects. Fishing spear? Check. Coral club? Check. Diving knife? Check. Canteen? Check. Shark stomach saddlebags? Double check. More than enough for a short trip past the reef. Heck, Brass Bits said I was overpacking. Then again, he probably just didn't want me taking his best-looking club. He studded the sucker with bullet casings and carved in a likeness of Poseidon into the side. I stood at the water's edge, the ebb and flow of the water gently tapping the wooden supports of the dock. I leapt into the water. Its coldness enveloped me. Slowly, it faded, and the sensations of the sea took over. Microcurrents of water, only noticeable to a practiced mind, pelted my skin. I breathed in deep, sucking in, allowing the water to fill my lungs. The smell of seaweed drifted past my nostrils, the taste of salt as I filtered the air from the water itself. This was home. I made my way past the grottos. Some pony was deboning a fish. Another couple was in the middle of flirting. I could feel their eyes on me. Oh, it's the Shaman's Apprentice, movie freak. I could feel ponies sinking. That or, oh hey Riptide, what's up? Bones got you doing stuff? I'd help, but I work for a living. Stuff like that. Nothing too bad, though. Don't get me wrong, the other villagers are decent folk, though you could get them to be straight up about it. They would tell you that the prospect of me being their future spiritual leader was disconcerting at best. In fact, I'd be the first to tell you to be worried. There's too much to keep track of. First, there is Celestia and Luna, and then you get the zebra faith. On top of that, we got Poseidon's worship. I sighed as I reached the edge of the reefs. Fluffy. Flufferfish are fluffy. However, they are also very, very poisonous. Every single tuft of fluff could kill a pony. The whole fish? Forget about it. So when I saw a whole school of the suckers get swallowed whole by a rad shark and the thing didn't die, I was convinced to keep my distance. The thing was at least long as 6 ponies, with a mouth big enough to get me whole. It had mean eyes, 3 of them, and 3 rows of teeth. Heck, that thing had 3 dorsal fins. I sank down to the rocks, careful not to nick myself on the sharp ones. Pony blood didn't attract rad sharks as much as some would think. Fish oil, on the other hand, will. Pony blood mixed with fish oil? Forget about it. 3 ohms roamed around as it slowly made its way away to some new spot. I rose from my spot. Scanning the area, I found some stragglers from the flufferfish school. My telekinesis wrapped around my spear as I floated towards the flufferfish. Then I waited. The fish started to get their bearings. I waited still. They reformed a school. I floated the spear closer to me. One of them abruptly turned. My spear pierced its side. I grabbed the fish and stuffed it into my saddlebags, ensuring a tight seal. A little fish oil seeped out. I could smell it. It was time to leave. The corners of my mouth pulled themselves towards my ear. Today was a good... I stopped dead. The scent. It was sour. It hurt like iron going to my nose. Blood. Pony blood. And it wasn't mine. My head burst from the surface. Vomiting up water, my lungs readjusted to breathing open air. I felt heat. Fire was on top of the water. I could feel my stomach churning as I scanned the area. The ruins of a boat floated along the surface. I stuck my nose back in the water and sniffed. The source of the blood was ahead of me. Swam over to what looked like the nose of the boat. I swam back under, holding my breath. Not enough time to adjust to the water again. The boat had cracked in half. Or mostly. It looked like a good chunk of it was ripped through. They didn't run aground, nor were there any icebergs to hit. I swam into the wound and found a pocket of air. The smell of blood nearly floored me on the way up. An earth pony and a filly were tied to a buoy. The mare had several shards of shrapnel sticking out of her back. Shit! I rushed over to their side when I got to the pocket. Both of them were out cold. My head bumped against the top of the nose. The wreckage was sinking, and the unconscious don't have a history of holding their breath. I pulled out my club and started beating on the roof. I couldn't go down, so I had to go up. Wham! The wood splintered. A couple shards hit me in the face. Wham! The hole parted just barely. Wham! Large chunks of wood fell down from the now pony-sized hole. I grabbed the buoy and the 2 others and pulled them through the portal. The nose of the boat was swallowed by the sea. I dragged the injured ones to a floating piece of wood, big enough for 2. A wave hit me in the face as I hoisted the 2 onto the raft. Running the rope the 2 had tied to the buoy to themselves through a hole in the raft. Now I know you probably can't hear me, but you're going to be alright. You're gonna... Why do I smell fish oil? I blurted to myself. I glanced backwards. My saddlebag was sliced open by a sharp wood splinter. The flufferfish floated by my tail, marinating in the blood of the injured mares. 1,000 searing hot needles pierced my tail as the rad shark clamped down on me, dragging me under. My lungs were filled with water as I adjusted to breathing it. I could feel sinew and muscles tearing as it kept pulling at me. The world blurred as I felt helpless. My telekinesis wrapped around the diving knife. Son of a bitch! I heard my voice screaming as I rammed it into one of the rad shark's eyes. Red sludge flew everywhere. The pressure around my tail released. The giant rushed on by. I could feel it in the currents that it was circling around. I pulled my spear out. If it wanted something to eat, it was getting it. I could barely see, but I felt it coming. Jaws burst into view. I rammed the spear forward. The tip caught itself into the roof of its mouth. I then shoved the other end into its tongue. It kept coming forward, mouth propped open like it was at the dentist. I shifted left. The corner of its mouth bashed me as it rushed by again. Again, I felt it circle around. I pulled out my last weapon, the club. Come on, big guy, let's do this, I said aloud, more to myself than to the rad shark. The water swelled as I saw its pearly whites. I swung upwards. its jaw muscles working in tandem with my swing. The spear forced itself into the brute's brain. The momentum of the huge beast carried us up to the surface. I vomited up water, blood, and probably a 2 for 2. Most likely, not even mine. Thankfully, I floated up to the raft. I wrapped the rope around me, the shark, and the raft. I need medical attention for 3. Oh, and the other 2 mares could use getting looked at as well. I swam as fast as my punctured tail would allow. I could see the tower light. It was only a few more minutes. After a few minutes, even the tower light wasn't visible. A singular ray of sunshine hit me in all the right places. My eye fluttered open. I felt really warm. "Open up! Police!" "I'll be right out!" A huge muscular pony burst through the door, knocking several cops off their hooves. He then proceeded to lay the smack down while he was unfazed by the metric ton of bullets hitting his body. Got them to fast forward it to where I left it off. I mused out loud. I drifted off to the smell of antibiotics and popcorn. Tag skills: medicine, speech, melee. Traits: skilled. You practice your technique quite a bit but never got out much. You receive +5 to all skills but get a -10% experience gain. Hot-blooded. You don't like getting hurt. It makes you angry. They won't like you when you're angry. At less than 50% health, +15 damage with a -2 to perception and agility. Offers notes. This is my first MLP fanfiction, so if anything seems amiss, please point it out so I can fix it. Also, please suggest how this story can be better. I'm writing it for your enjoyment as much as mine. Let's make this good. Reader's notes. This is my first audiobook. Yeah. Just got the setup working all right, and I decided that Dark Shores would be a pretty good starter since it's kind of short, and I really enjoy reading it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first chapter of Dark Shores. I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.